All right, let's dive into one of the biggest, most important rivalries in modern technology. We're talking about the epic battle for the cloud data warehouse. This is a story about three giants, Snowflake, Google BigQuery, and Amazon Redshift, and how their showdown completely changed the way we all think about data. So picture this. It's the early 2010s. The world of data is going through this massive change. For years, companies kept their data locked away in their own private servers, but now everyone's moving to the cloud. This wasn't just some small upgrade. It was like discovering a whole new continent, a massive digital frontier just waiting to be claimed. And whenever there's a new frontier, what happens? A land grab. The question on everybody's mind was, okay, who's going to be the one to build the definitive platform for this new age of data? Who's going to control it? This was way more than just a tech problem. It was a high-stakes battle for dominance. And out of that chaos, three major players stepped into the ring. And here's the interesting part. Each one had a completely different idea, a totally different vision for what a cloud data warehouse should even be. Let's meet them. First up, you've got the heavyweight champion, the incumbent. Coming from the undisputed king of the cloud itself, Amazon Web Services. I'm talking, of course, about Amazon Redshift. Back then, if you were moving to the cloud, you were probably using AWS. They had this enormous built-in advantage, and they were not about to miss this opportunity. Redshift was really the trailblazer here. They launched back in 2012 and became the first cloud data warehouse to go mainstream. It was built on something developers already knew, Postgres, but with this really slick innovation called columnar storage. Now, think of it this way. A normal database is like reading a book page by page. Columnar storage is like having a perfect index that lets you jump straight to the exact column of data you need across millions of pages. For analytics, this was a massive speed boost. They were first, and they were fast. Okay, next up in the ring, the challenger from another tech giant. If anyone on the planet understood data at a ridiculous scale, it was Google. And they brought a completely different playbook to this fight with Google BigQuery. BigQuery's whole approach was frankly radical. And the one word you need to know is serverless. They basically walked in and said, hey, you know all that annoying work of managing servers and tuning databases and worrying about clusters? Forget all of it. You just write your questions, and our planet-sized infrastructure will give you the answer instantly. This obsession with massive scale and just pure simplicity, it was a total game changer. And that brings us to our third contender, the underdog, the scrappy, independent upstart that wasn't backed by a huge cloud company. This is where Snowflake enters the story. And this is where the plot really thickens. Snowflake showed up, looked at what the other guys were doing, and decided to tear up the rulebook. Their killer insight was to separate storage from compute. So think about it like a library. The other guys built the library and the reading rooms as one giant inseparable building. Snowflake, on the other hand, built the library as one thing, and then let you instantly create as many separate reading rooms as you needed, and then just get rid of them when you were done. This gave people an insane amount of flexibility and efficiency that the others just couldn't touch. And right there, that's where the real battle lines were drawn. See, this was never just about who had which feature. This was a fundamental clash of beliefs, a true war of philosophies about how data was supposed to work in the cloud. This really breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got Redshift, and their philosophy was all about integration. Their pitch was simple. Hey, you're already using AWS for everything else, just use our data warehouse. It all plugs together seamlessly. Then you have BigQuery, who is all about simplicity. They said, forget the hardware, just ask your questions, pay for what you use, and we'll handle the rest. And finally, you had Snowflake, flying the flag of independence. Their message was powerful. Why lock yourself into one cloud? We're built for the cloud, we run on every cloud, and we give you the ultimate freedom. So you've got these three totally different visions out there competing for customers. But philosophies are great, but the market always gets the final vote. So how did this all shake out? In the beginning, Redshift was just crushing it. They had a huge head start. For so many companies already building their businesses on AWS, choosing Redshift was a complete no-brainer. That tight integration made them the undisputed king for anyone who got to the cloud early. But at the same exact time, BigQuery was building its own passionate army. It became the absolute darling of data scientists and analysts. These folks loved the pay-per-query model and the pure freedom of not having to manage any infrastructure. They carved out a massive and really devoted user base. And then Snowflake came in and flipped the whole chessboard over. That brilliant architectural decision, splitting storage and compute, gave them the superpower called elasticity. A team could ramp up their processing power to supercomputer levels for a huge project and then scale it right back down to zero a minute later, only paying for what they used. You combine that with their multi-cloud support, and suddenly the biggest companies in the world had a very compelling reason to bet on the independent newcomer. And that bet paid off, big time. In 2020, Snowflake went public, and this wasn't just any IPO. It was, at the time, the largest software IPO in history, full stop. This was the moment the market roared, basically declaring that Snowflake's vision of independence and flexibility wasn't just viable, it was the future. It was just a stunning validation. So, the dust is kind of settled. What's the real legacy here? What did this fierce, head-to-head competition leave behind for the rest of us in the tech world? Well, its legacy is absolutely profound. First, this whole battle proved that cloud data warehouses weren't just some niche idea. They were the way forward. It showed all of us that you could have unimaginable scale and still make things simple for the user. All that intense competition, it forced everyone to get better, faster. It accelerated innovation across the entire industry. And maybe most importantly for us, it drove costs down for everyone. It took the power of big data analytics and made it accessible to way more people than ever before. So when you really look back at the story of Redshift, BigQuery, and Snowflake, you realize it was never really about who could run a SQL query a few milliseconds faster. It was a fundamental debate about the very future of data. And those three powerful ideas, deep integration, radical simplicity, or total independence, those are the forces that didn't just define a decade of technology, they continue to shape our entire digital world today.